I'll say it again.
Oh, no. I mean, yes, please do.
Yeah. I won't mention, the hospitals or anything.
Welcome again, anyone who's watching this, to the 4 Amigos ride again, or probably for us today, it's 1 Amigo rides and 3 hobble on limp. But life is
don't make me laugh.
No laughing today, because Dory is not in a good place in terms of pain today. Okay, so
you've just come out of hospital, haven't you, Dory?
I have. I had my gallbladder removed, and
sounds like you're on a horrible ward.
Yes, the first ward was okay when I first went in, but the ward they took me to after surgery was just horrendous. There was the first thing that hit you was the smell. I think it was God's waiting room, really, because and I know it's not the patient's fault. They were dying. I mean, one lady died while I was in there. So they're all in pads, they can't get up. But there was no windows. There was no
windows.
Air circulation. They said it was because of the way they've had to put the wards because of COVID, sort of split them.
Just Wrexham.
Yeah. But there was a lady in the corner. There was nobody I could talk to. No television or radio or nothing. And there was a lady in the corner who obviously had dementia. And she must have only been in her 50s. And she was stuck at the far end in like a cot bed. And she was shouting out, "Have I done anything wrong? Have I done anything wrong?" And the nurse was passing my bed and she said, "Just ignore her. She's not making sense. Take no notice," and carried on out the ward. And I thought, that's terrible, So this lady kept shouting out, and I struggled out of bed with me little trolley, with me drip, hobbled over, and had a conversation with her, tried to reassure her, because she'd obviously gone back to a place, and not a very happy place, I don't think, in her life. But I was reassuring, and but I got back to bed and I thought, I don't know whether she was in hospital for anything or whether there was just nowhere else for her to go. But she certainly wasn't in that right place.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, and I thought she'd be probably what they call a bed blocker, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
And it was just horrendous. I mean, I have put it on Twitter.
Good.
They brought me my breakfast. Not that story, but the next morning they brought me breakfast. I said I'd have some toast and marmalade. And nurse come with 4 rounds of toast, dried toast, on, the towels out of the dispenser you dry your hands on.
Yeah.
4 slices of toast on a piece of that.
Oh, God.
A little tub of marmalade, no knife, plonks it on my table and goes off. So
I can't believe it.
What?
I don't usually complain. I usually but I thought, So I said, excuse me, could I not have a plate and a knife? And she said, oh, can't find one.
What?
And she said, we don't notice, because we work here all the time, we don't notice. But sometimes you can hunt everywhere for a knife and fork.
What?
So I've tweeted, I know the NHS is struggling, but come on, the basic thing as a plate.
I know. That's just...
It's disgusting.
It is. I know they do marvellous work and they're really overstretched, but a plate and a knife, especially in this, you've got to be clean and hygienic.
And after all, you do have to eat. After you've had an operation, well, you have to eat anyway, but after you've had an operation, you have to eat a bit more normally in order... I've got to be careful here about medical things, but in order to have the things, the chemicals or whatever, food in your system to actually help the healing.
Yeah.
So dry toast and marmalade, which you can't even eat because you can't get the stuff on the toast. Oh dear.
And not even a plate. Oh God.
You wouldn't have thought things like that happen still, would you?
No, I was shocked because I've been in hospital loads of times. I've had a rough life. And I have never been in a ward like that.
Yeah.
And I'm altering my care plan. I told my son yesterday, if I get to 80, after 80, I don't want resuscitating. If I have a stroke or anything, I just want palliative care. I don't want to be put in a ward like that if anything happens to me. If I get to 80, that's a good age. He said, oh, don't be morbid, Mum. I said, no, I mean it.
I mean, the whole story begs a few questions about why they choose to put people who are dying, although you weren't.
No, well, I felt I wanted to.
But in a room somewhere with no daylight,
no
windows, no views. I mean, it's like being virtually put into a coffin before you even get there.
Yeah.
No.
And there was a clock on the wall that rattled and ticked. You could hear the tick, tick through the night. And I was thinking, oh, it's ticking away me minutes here. It's awful. I just can't. And I'm not saying anything about Wrexham because I have been in Wrexham ward, and the ward I first went into was okay, except it was a mixed ward.
Really?
Yes. And
I didn't think they existed anymore.
When I first went in, there was 2 gentlemen in there, and I got up, and apparently my pyjama bottoms had come down, and I didn't know. And he told me, excuse me, my love, you're doing a strip show. Your pajamas are falling down.
You see, you do this even when you're in a...
Yeah, you attract them.
Yeah, you do it on trains. You do it in wards. I don't know. Mind you, on a serious note, I think the rules about not having mixed sex wards were relaxed a year ago because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID.
Yeah. I didn't mind that, but they went sometime during the evening. I don't know where they went. So there was just myself in there. And then I woke up in the night and there was another gentleman in there. Now, there was nobody in the ward, no nurses.
He wasn't leaning over your bed, was he?
No, he was in the bed opposite me. And I sort of appeared, in the shadows. And he was sitting in bed, just staring at me. And I just thought, now, I felt really uncomfortable because I don't know this person and they don't know this person. He could be a rapist or not that
or might have dementia.
Look at me and yeah, but it's not. I felt very uneasy.
Yeah, I would have done.
I wouldn't like it.
No.
Gail, how are you?
I'm
today?
not doing too bad.
Good.
I'm a lot better than I was. Yes.
You're taking a long time to get over it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Grief. Well, I bet it's nearly 2 weeks since.
Yeah, it must be.
I'd felt it coming on before we joined the group on the Thursday. I didn't feel so good Wednesday, and then Thursday I felt a bit iffy, and then we went out for a walk, and when I come back I just felt awful, and then by Saturday I couldn't even speak. I couldn't say a word.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Not like me. But,
what on earth did hubby do while you couldn't speak?
Well, the funny thing is, hubby's had it as well, but he didn't. He didn't get it as bad.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why have I got it worse than you? You're out there working, and I'm at home." But because I said, I wonder if
that's probably why, because he's probably got a bit more resistance and stamina.
Possibly, because I said, I wonder if when you've got dementia, does it take you longer to get over things, or you just don't know?
Maybe I don't know. No.
I had 2 COVID tests just to make sure that it wasn't COVID, and they were
It's just remarkable that you lost your taste and smell.
Yeah, I still can't taste and smell at all.
Because that's the classic COVID symptom.
Yeah, it's like eating cardboard. I don't know why I bother eating, because I can't taste anything. It's horrible.
It's cheaper.
Yeah. But I think I've most probably got it off the grandchildren, because we've been looking after the grandchildren a couple of years before.
Yeah.
And obviously they pick everything up, so I'm blaming them.
Well, so you won't be seeing them for another decade or two.
Your blog was very interesting, Gail.
Oh, the one on autism.
Autism, that was really good.
Yeah. It was just, the thing is, my grandson has autism, and he'll be nearly 4. And there's so many similarities that I feel like I'm on his wavelength half of the time, saying to my daughter, can I just discuss like his sleep patterns and, and things like this? And it was so interesting, because one of them sleeps really well and one of them doesn't. And sometimes his sleep pattern's a bit hit and miss, which is the same as me. And I said, food. I said, I've never really thought about food. She said, oh, don't get me onto foods, because at the moment all I'll eat is hot dogs. And I said, this is very similar to me, because I just eat jacket potatoes. I just eat jacket potatoes all the time.
There is a subtle difference there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, one is potato, one is meat. But,
but what I'm saying, George, is it's the same.
I know.
Food. Yeah.
It's George being George.
It's just the mannerisms and everything, the sounds and that upset him, and which is the same for people with dementia. Sounds upset us. It's just.
I mean, the only thing I'd say is, and I read your blog as well, is that although there are, and I think I've noticed this before, but certainly you put it very well, that there are similarities in, let's say, symptoms and behaviours.
Yeah.
Dementia is caused by disease.
Yeah.
And autism is not. Autism is, I've just looked it up again. It's most likely to have a genetic origin.
Yeah.
But not always.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean the parents necessarily have to have had it, because genetics can sort of go all over.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the right combination crops up, or rather the wrong combination, and you have something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right about noise and stuff.
Yeah, there's just lots of things that's very, very similar.
Similar. Yeah.
Very.
A bit about being on his own.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to so many of the things.
Yeah.
You people who like being on your own, I don't know.
Yeah, I love being on my own.
And me.
Having said that, yes. Well, sorry. I mean, so do I. But I don't like being on my own all the time. But I do sometimes think how relaxing it would be to live alone.
My friend said an interesting thing, because she's retired now, but she used to work in a school for children with autism, and she said she sees a lot of similarities. That she says with me, I take things I don't know if that's the word, logically. You know, somebody will say something and I take it, and she says children, literally. Yeah. She says children with autism do that.
Yeah, the classic thing you never do with a child with autism is say, "Oh, go and take a running jump."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they put this drip thing on me in the hospital, and I said, "Oh, what's in that?" And she said, "Soapy water." She just said soapy water and went on. So I thought it was. I know, you know.
Did she have a smile on her face, or was she just being deliberately sarcastic?
No, they were just awful in that ward.
Oh, bloody hell.
Anyway,
are you sure they were real nurses on that ward?
I don't know.
You were in the ward.
I don't know.
I think that was a Nightingale ward behind a funeral director.
Yeah. The next day they come to change it, a different nurse, and I said, "Well, more soapy water, is it to flush me out?" And she said, "It's not soapy water, it's to hydrate you. It's saline, is it?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh," the nurse said, I took it literally that it was soapy water.
Yeah.
And so, with Gail talking about the autism. Yeah. And I
tell you what you ought to do, Dory. You ought to, if you can face doing it, while it's fresh in your mind, type this, write it down, type it out, whatever, or record it, you know, do a tape recording and send it to them. It doesn't have to be, I mean, if you make it a formal complaint, that's one way of making sure someone will read it. But you could just send it to pals.
My sister-in-law
because if we don't tell them, they don't find out.
My sister-in-law called this morning, and she works there as in the out of hours, you know, out and out on the phone. And I was telling her, and she said, "Oh, she'd heard that ward's not a good ward to be in." And she said, "Write a letter." And she says, "Say the good things like the other wards, you know." But then it was that thing.
I found the same in my local acute hospital. You know, when I've been in there, sometimes you're on a really good ward, and other times, for some reason, you get one or two staff who they're just obnoxiously unhelpful. And just, you know, most are great. But for us, I mean, I know we can't expect everybody in any profession to be perfect, whether you be a solicitor, a doctor, or whatever.
No.
But you do, I don't know, if you are the person who suffers from this, then it's wrong. And no good just excusing it, saying, "Oh, well, it was a bad day" or something. You know?
Yeah,
and there must be something wrong with that ward for it to be like that.
Oh, yeah.
The leader, the sister, the matrix, you know, there's something
I don't know.
Not right.
You know, the nicest person on there that interacted with anybody was the cleaner.
Yeah, that's often the case.
She was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
She really was. She was a breath of fresh air. She stopped at everybody's bed as she was brushing and mopping around. chatting away, whether they took any note, you know.
Was she really called a cleaner? Or was she
I don't know what
domestic,
they're called.
just domestic technician?
Maybe, I don't know. I call them a cleaner.
Well, you
'cause
can
I
praise
was a
her in
cleaner.
your letter.
Yes, she was, and she said it took her about 2 hours to get round the floor, but it's because she was.
They are
I
often the only people who take time to talk to patients.
Yeah, she was lovely.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
I know the nurses are rushed and understaffed. I do appreciate that, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, when there's a staffing shortage, there has been for years, but it's got worse and worse.
Yeah.
So what do we do? As patients, do we complain because actually we're not getting a good, kind, caring service? We're just getting the sort of bog standard basics, if that, or do we, or do we say, oh well, we understand why, therefore I won't complain? But actually, it may not be their fault, or it might be.
No, it's
but even if it's not,
fault.
you've got to say it, because otherwise nothing will ever change.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's
It's
like when I
interesting.
went in, they put me in the bed and there was a bar, a metal hard sticking in the bottom of my back.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me, there's something sticking in my back. And she said, oh, it's an inflatable bed. So I said, yeah, but it's sticking in my back and I've just come from theatre. And she said, she had a look and she said, oh, it's faulty. So I said, well, I can't sleep in that. So she says, well, you'll have to sit in the chair because we haven't got another bed. And I said, well, I can't sit in the chair. I've just come from theatre, I've just had surgery. Anyway, this other nurse come and she said, what's the matter? And she said, the bed's faulty, but we haven't got another bed. So this other nurse said, oh, well, we'll have to get one out the other ward. So they took that bed away and brought in another bed. So they did have another bed. It was just that nurse couldn't be.
I think we'll send a copy of this particular recording to Wrexham Mailer General Hospital Chief Executive.
Anyway, they brought me another bed and it was very comfortable. But the lady in the bed next door, she was crying because she was, not well. And she said, how have you got special treatment I've been complaining about my bed for days. And she said, it's sticking in my back and everything. And she was so frail. I says, well, when I go, I'll tell them to give you this bed.
Okay, so has anybody got a gun at home? Because I think we each should have one. Because
I think we should have one.
I'm buggered if I'm, what?
I think we should each have one too.
I see. I'm buggered if I'm going to hospital for that sort of thing.
No.
And Wrexham is a potential place for me to go as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I live sort of halfway between Telford and Wrexham.
Yeah.
I'm slightly closer to Shrewsbury, but it could go either way.
Yeah. I mean, I have been in Wrexham before and not had that experience.
No.
But you shouldn't have that experience. And I think with lockdowns made it worse because nobody's getting visitors.
Oh,
I'm thinking of these.
And the visitors can often do the advocating, let's say.
Yeah. I think they think, oh, there's no visitors, so we don't have to bother, making it look like we're bothered with them.
So it would appear that we are talking about hospitals and, loosely speaking, dementia today. So anybody got any other experiences, folks?
I refuse. My GP knows I refuse to go into hospital to Hull Royal because the experience I had there was just Right, but
Awful.
thankfully my daughter was with me, so
Yeah.
she saw what happened. You know, there was no smiling, no conversation with you, just at you. And we were I remember we were with the consultant, and she had a student with her, which was fine. But then we started talking, and then the phone rang. Her phone rang, and she just disappeared. And you sat there like, well, what do we do now? And then she came back, and then another student came in and started asking her questions about something else. And she went off with him. It's as though we weren't there, you know, we didn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, just going for a checkup's bad enough, but having to go in hospital and be treated like that as a patient, it's not on.
No, my doctor always gets me seen at the community hospital, the local community hospital.
Yeah.
Because she knows I'll just refuse to go
Yeah.
to anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some perfectly good experiences and some pretty bad ones.
Yeah.
Just a minute. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, hospitals for me frighten me to death. They frighten me so much. Thought of having to go in, it's just my worst nightmare. I just think I'd refuse.
Yeah.
So especially, you know, if the initial contact with someone starts off bad, then it just seems to get downhill all the way. Then I just hate it. I really do.
Well, in A&E, when I went in through A&E, they put me then, when I got triaged, they put me in what they called the pod.
Pod?
Yeah. Since COVID, they've got these pods now.
Oh.
Instead of the curtains round, you know, instead of bays, like pods or cells, you could more or less. But two different nurses, one came in from Wrexham Glyndor University, and she said, I know your voice. And she says, have you done a talk at Glyndor University for the nurses? And I said, yes, I have done some. She says, I'm sure I was at one of your sessions. She said, I learned such a lot. And then she went, and then later on another nurse come from Bangor University. And she said, have you done talks at Bangor? And I said,
you'd have got special treatment being known.
And she said, she says, I've never forgotten the information we received. Oh, I'll have to come back and talk to you later, she said.
No.
You know, it was only after surgery, as I say. I had advocacy, but I was glad I took my noise defenders in with me. They were a godsend, you know, with all the bleeping machines. And
that is another thing that I found very, almost distressing. It's, you know, because you can relax, you can get used to bleeping, like ticking or anything else, if it's continuous and regular. But if it stops suddenly, or escalates or something, you think, oh God, what's going on? And it goes on all bloody night and all day. And I know they have to have it, but I sometimes wonder if they really have to have it all when they don't necessarily take any notice when the damn thing starts bleeping to say there's a problem. I
remember when I actually worked in the hospital, them looking at a new system that the bleeping simply was light shining on the sisters.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
That's all it was. And
Yeah.
nothing happened. It was, one of these great ideas that didn't take up. That's the obvious answer. Because the nurses must get fed up of it anyway.
Yeah.
So it just
Well,
solves
I suppose they get immune to it.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, just series of lights from where the noise is coming from.
So what do we think are the key things that I could say are wrong, but I could also be more positive and say that we would like to see or hear when we visit a hospital as regards dementia?
I think they should have quieter environments.
Yeah.
I know you have to have, but try and keep it to a minimum, as much a minimum as possible. And not have these machines going off just because, I mean, they were going off for no reason, because or they've been
How often did you hear someone say, "Oh, that machine is just not right or faulty or something"? People. Oh, it's probably just the line's a bit kinked. It's fine. Oh, if the line's kinked, I'm not getting my meds.
It makes the experience worse if you've got dementia, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But a good thing that one place did, because they had the butterfly scheme, they.
Oh yes.
Yeah, put a butterfly by the bed of whoever, and they had volunteers that simply went to sit with them and chat. So the volunteers simply went looking for butterflies. They just sat and chatted with them. That's what they did all day.
Oh, that's really good, because I mean, the butterfly scheme, it took quite a long time to get embedded in my local trust. Probably anywhere. And then they started doing activity boxes for a ward for a nurse, whoever, or an HCA more often, who had probably volunteered to be the dementia sort of person on that ward. Not the one who knew everything about it, but the person who would take a lead in just making sure something happened. But the one thing I never sort of saw happen was something like that, volunteers, people actually having and taking the time just to be there. Yeah. Because, as you said, it's a bit like these, sessions. It's not about playing games. Although sometimes it can be quite fun. But it's not. It's not about taking a jigsaw along. It's not necessarily about taking a bloody twiddle muff along. Although I'm sure they're very good and all that for some people. It's about getting to know them,
spending time,
about listening and spending time. Yeah. Even if you sit there and say nothing, you're there, and you might just occasionally get something.
I was thinking that in that ward, it wasn't up to me to go and spend some time with that lady.
But you can't just lie there and watch it, can you?
No, because I know that could be me. That may be me in a few years. We don't know. And she's a person, and
I mean, another thing that often happens, and it in a different way, it was highlighted today by the Alzheimer's Society report that they've done about more people being admitted from care homes into hospital for things like dehydration and UTIs and falls, when actually, if the care had provided fluid and support, then they probably would not have, they wouldn't have had to go in.
No.
Yeah.
But I know, certainly in the past, and I'm pretty certain it still happens, people will get dehydrated because maybe they're not given the right sort of mug or cup or something. Because, I mean, who likes drinking from a plastic effing white thing stuck into a brown thing? They're horrible, and they're tiny as well. You know, they're horrible. Or that they're sort of given the tea when actually they don't want tea, they want coffee, or they want Horlicks or water.
Or that it's put out of reach.
Out of reach, out of sight. I mean, all these things. And they are, once you realise, they're obvious, but they still don't always happen.
No. Well, I had to keep asking. Oh, sorry, Wendy.
No, go on.
I had to keep asking for my jug to be filled up. So what, you know, if you haven't got that communication,
just as well you didn't have two jugs.
Yeah.
Aha!
Having said that, I remember when I went in hospital for my stroke, you reminded me, Dory, that they never gave me a drink. They never gave me a jug. And I was in such a frame of mind that I didn't ask for any.
No.
So again,
but of course, that would make your brain, your cognitive ability,
that's right,
far
even worse.
Far worse.
So for
Gail, have you been into hospital at all?
Not since I've been diagnosed with dementia, but I've been in quite a few times before, which, for me, I'd rather be cared for at home on all occasions. I really don't want to go in. It's one thing that I don't know, I think they'd have trouble with me anyway if they took me into hospital. I don't think I'd stay there. I really don't. Because I'm so frightened. It's not just the hospital. I have a thing about people being ill, and I can't stand people that are being sick or anything like that. So for me to be in a ward with people that are not very well, it is my worst nightmare. So I'd spend more time in the toilets on my own, I think, because I could not sit in a room or a ward where there's people being sick. I can't physically do it. I can't do it at home with people that I know, so I'm not going to.
That's really interesting. I'd never thought of that before. But
and of course, you don't like taking drugs either, do you?
No.
So what would happen then? I mean, would you refuse them in hospital, or would you just sort of? Oh, right. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I know.
and then would they say, "Oh, well, you haven't got capacity, so I'm bloody giving them you anyway."
Yeah. You see, the thing is, both of my daughters and my husband know that if I went into hospital, what I would be like. And I think, I know hubby has always said that he'd look after me at home for as long as he possibly could before sending me anywhere, because he knows what I'd be like. I'd be an absolute nightmare. And I think I'd most probably, I'd kick off, I would imagine. I'd get quite angry, I think, because I'd be frustrated.
You'd
My
have
poor
that
daughter,
aggressive behaviour.
my poor daughter had to put up with me refusing to go into hospital recently because by mistake, I took too many paracetamol, because I got confused with numbers and things. And so the surgery insisted I go to hospital to have the liver test and everything. And I just refused. I said to her, no, don't matter what happens, I'm not going to hospital. And she had to do all the arguing because I couldn't use the phone, otherwise I would have argued with them. But in the end, they did it at the surgery. Well, why couldn't they do that in the beginning?
Yeah.
And anybody mentions a hospital to me and I panic. I literally go into panic mode. So
I just refused. I just said no.
Yeah.
So poor old Sarah had to sort it all out.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely putting in my.
Yeah, you must, Dory, because that's just.
Yeah.
That was cruel.
Yeah.
They might
I've
not have
never wanted-
realised it was cruel, but
No.
it was cruel.
But my mood went really.
I can imagine. So would
Yeah.
mine.
I mean, I was crying, and I don't get. I mean, I spent 7 months in Gabon spinal unit.
yeah.
There's no ward worse, than that. But
Mm.
even that was better. I kept positive in there. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
If we don't,
I feel I have to say something in favour of my local orthopaedic world-famous hospital because their spinal unit is world-renowned.
Yeah. Well, they saved my life.
But I can imagine that the last thing on earth you'd want to do is spend 7 months encased in concrete, plaster, in a spinal ward.
Yeah.
yeah.
However good and nice they are.
Yes. But my son said, because he came to pick me up with my daughter, and he said, I've never seen you come out of the hospital looking like you did.
Yeah.
I was traumatized. It was
Yeah.
awful. And I was
So
only in there 2 days.
So do you think that wasn't just the fact that you were stuck for 7 months with everything being done for you?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's dementia. I mean, it's pretty horrendous. It would be horrendous in there for anybody, but I
Hang
don't
on,
know.
which one are we talking about? Are we talking about?
Wrexham.
Oh yeah, Wrexham.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah. No. I meant to do with the when you broke your back.
Yeah. Yeah, they did everything for me. But they were lovely. They spent time.
Yeah, they
There
are.
was windows. They were like sliding doors. One wall was full of doors, and they just opened them all up. So, and
I know. I mean, I've been in there. I used to be on the patient panel there, and I've been around.
Brilliant.
Stuff. Yeah.
But,
yeah.
This one you really must write to them, Dora.
I will. Yeah. It's not good, for other people as well. For the other.
Well, it didn't do you any good watching what was going on, did it?
No.
That's the other thing. You're watching things around you, and that doesn't do your healing any good.
Lady who was very frail and spent most of the time asleep, and they'd bring her her meal, put it there, and they'd say, "Oh, you're very sleepy. Come on, here's your tea," and go off. And I look over, and she'd be sitting up, fast asleep. And then they'd come and take the plates away when them.
Yeah, classic.
And she hadn't had anything to eat because she'd just fallen to sleep.
Were they keeping, or did you notice they were keeping any food and nutrition and hydration charts?
I didn't see. And they did say to me a dietitian would be round to see me at one stage. They said, "Oh, the dietitian's coming to see you later about what I can eat and stuff now my gallbladder's gone." Nobody came.
Oh, so you haven't had that advice yet?
No.
But so you're at home without a gallbladder, feeling ill, and you haven't had any advice on how to get better and how to live?
Great. No, nothing.
Oh my goodness.
Nothing.
I mean, just beggars belief, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
How did they deal with or adapt what they did, do you think, as regards you having dementia? I mean, we all know you're quite early stage most of the time, like most of us.
I do get anxious and confused.
Yeah, of course. So what did they do?
Nothing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Nobody even mentions.
You didn't have a butterfly?
No butterfly.
No.
When my daughter took me in to A&E, we went in the doors, and I know things are different with COVID, but there was a man kicking off in A&E. He was with 2 policemen on a chain, you know, obviously been brought from prison for some treatment.
Oh, God.
That'd be the start off.
They said to my daughter, you can't go in. You know, we'll take you through. And my daughter, I put my sunflower lanyards on with the red, is it Dementia Red? Have you seen them? They're called Dementia Red.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And it says, the red is for respect, empathy and dignity.
Okay.
Oh, I've not seen them.
And it says, I have dementia and I want respect, empathy and dignity. It's called Dementia Red.
I'm looking it up.
No, I've not seen
had that on my sunflower. So my daughter says, well, no, I'm coming in with my mum at least until she goes to a ward. And they said, no, you're not allowed. And my daughter says, she's got Alzheimer's and I am not leaving her here on her own, sitting in there. And they said, no. So my daughter kicked off. And then they said, well, you can sit with her till she's called through to triage and then you'll have to go. So she sat with me from 6:30 till 12:30.
Oh my goodness.
They took me through to triage then, so she had to go home. And then they put me in this pod where I stayed till 4:00, sitting in there on my own. And I could hear this man still kicking off.
This was 4:00 in the morning.
I'd been there since 6:30.
So, I mean,
it's not good. It's not good for anybody, but
no.
the person with dementia, it's disgusting.
I mean, how, if you get, I mean, this would apply to you, it would apply to anybody with dementia. Yeah. If they're ill enough to be taken to hospital and sort of have an operation for whatever, and they can't, and they have dementia, and therefore they are cognitively impaired in some way and find it difficult to deal with things, unfamiliar surroundings, noise, people shouting, you name it. How would they expect you or anybody else to actually manage through understanding what you're being told, being able to give answers? Because after all, we all know that at times, and especially when you're ill, you may rely on other people to give the answers for you. How would you be able to deal with that situation? What would they do? How could they get consent off you?
Yeah,
informed consent.
I don't know. The funny thing was,
crazy.
When I was on a trolley going through a corridor, I don't know, I saw a dementia-friendly hospital and all the on a big poster on the wall.
Lovely.
I remember looking at it and thinking, oh yeah.
Okay, Chief Exec, Wrexham Hospital, you're not dementia-friendly.
Dementia-friendly, no.
Yeah.
But I got to say that, again, my acute trust in Shropshire, they signed up to the dementia-friendly charter 4 years ago. Let's ignore the COVID time. They've done relatively little, and they've got very small team with, I suppose, one. Is it band 7 or 8? I can't remember. Dementia specialist nurse who is excellent, wonderful, who does as much as she can. And a couple of other people now, and you know, going around the whole damn place. with 600, 700 beds or something. Oh, you know.
I used to do a lot for dementia friends. So, you know, I was a dementia friend. Oh, I am a dementia friend.
I did too. Yeah.
But I've lost complete. To me, it's just a money-making tick box.
I don't know whether it's money-making, but it's.
I don't know, but
I think it's certainly box ticky.
Yeah.
And I think our enthusiasm in the first 2 or 3 years of it it's petered out because we haven't seen the changes that we thought we might or should. So
the reason
I don't
why
want to give
the reason why it petered out is because our enthusiasm petered out. It was people like us who got the enthusiasm and would promote it and do all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we stopped, then that's when it went down because nothing was changing. So why are we bothering to do it?
Yeah. That's why we stopped, because nothing. You give a few time to go round places.
A few things have improved. A few things have changed. There's a bit more awareness. Yeah. But if you've got 5,000 employees in a local NHS trust, and only, I don't know, maybe 1,000 of them have done Dementia Friends sessions, let alone proper training, then you aren't getting very far. And if you've still got things happening like Dory you've just described, and that happened to me when I was in, you know, it's not actually getting far.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh well. So I think that was me. Sorry, I was tapping. Oh, mustn't tap, Dory.
No, don't tap.
Spare.
I'll get aggressive with my challenging behaviour. Just because I get distressed with the tapping.
Yeah.
So I'm not aggressive really. Except when they bring my toast on a piece of toweling, paper toweling instead of a plate.
Did they give you any idea of how long it takes to recuperate?
No. Nothing. I've got dressings on. I don't know when do I take them off?
Oh my goodness.
Did they give you a discharge letter to give to your GP?
No, they just said they'll write to my GP.
Oh. Well, you might have that dressing on for a while then.
Well, I might end up taking, because I've got to have a shower at some point.
Well, for goodness sake, if you begin to feel it in any way unwell, or if you have itching or something around your do get in touch with someone.
I will.
Yeah.
My daughter will.
Okay. Right. Well, this has not been the most uplifting, but hopefully.
No, but it's been true, hasn't it? It's been true.
Hopefully informative.
Yeah. Yes. As I say, it's bad enough if you haven't got dementia to go through that, but it just magnifies it 3 times, 4 times more if you have dementia.
Yeah.
And I'm now going back to bed because.
Oh, bless.
Indeed.